The woman whom my father had been so devastated over, he began to take long drives, a bottle of Jack between his legs. The woman who had made it so that I had to care for my dad like a baby, instead of the other way around, after he'd gotten into an accident that had left his body but taken his mind. Cecilia. And the thing is, Kari, it was some Indian jewelry, and it's old. I felt like changing my drink to something stronger. And since your mom was Apache and Chickasaw, I nodded. I'm just saying that it might be significant, she said. I continued to stare down at the wood of the bar, run my fingers along the rough edges. But the important part is, when she found it, when I picked it up, I felt weird. I was silent for a long time, my heart hammering in my throat. I signaled Nick and ordered a whiskey to go with my beer, the dark brown liquid splashing a bit over the rim of the tiny paper cup. As he set it down, "Want one?" "No, I gotta drive back," Debby said, glancing at her clock. "It takes at least 45 minutes to get from Denver to Idaho Springs, and I'm sure Jack's already wondering why I'm not home." I rolled my eyes, and we sat in an uncomfortable silence. "You know I don't like talking about her," I finally said, grumbling. "I'm just going to, give it to you, okay?" "Fine," I said, watching as she dug into her purse. She pulled an ancient hammered copper bracelet out of her bag, a bit of patina around the edges. It hummed with power, with history, my history. It was the kind that Indians used to wear all the time, and it was old. I squinted, thinking, upon closer inspection, that it was probably turn of the century. I could see, as Debby held it out in her little pink hands, that there were different objects carved into each thick copper square, links connecting each section, symbols I recognized from Indian jewelry of the time, stuff that was common for urban Indians, or that had been lifted from plains culture. A thunderbird, a waterbird, a spiral, a Lakota chief's headdress. Then there were others that I thought were perhaps Apache. Symbols for water, the sun and the mountains, the moon and the arrows, a war club. Yes, that was definitely Apache. Stuff my Auntie Squeaker back in the Springs would know about. I was sure. And lastly, something that made me ill just looking at it. A stick figure that seemed to represent a monster of some sort. In the back of my mind, I could almost remember the name for it. My thoughts wandered, unbidden, to my mother. Debby shoved it into my bag, and I kept drinking, nodding as she went on about her husband, listening to the eerie, lonely sound of the wind whistling through the open door. But though I tried to focus on everything but that bracelet, it began burning into my mind, glowing almost, roping me to thoughts of my mother and my painful, locked away past. Chapter 2. I looked at the clown's face, the big, red mouth with the hole at the center for the ball, and thought about the 2 odd years it had taken Jack, Debby's obnoxious husband, and his best buddy from high school, Carl, to build a mini putt-putt into the old, rotting apartment complex that Jack had inherited from his father. Jack had decided, upon his father's death, that what he really needed in his life was an indoor mini putt-putt course. Carl had been very supportive of this move. Debby less so. Jack took an awkward swing with an ancient, rusty golf club, and the ball ricocheted off the clown's face he'd built into an old fireplace, whacking him in the leg. "God damn it," he said, picking up a can of Miller Lite sitting on an old end table. The ball had hit uncomfortably close to his crotch. Jack took another gulp of his beer and set it down. "So, Kari, got a boyfriend yet?" Jack asked. Carl perked up. We boned once in high school, and Carl had never forgotten it. "Yeah, actually," I responded. "I do." Jack blanched. "Kari!" Debby said, squealing and clapping her tiny white hands.